Hey guys, welcome to a video that has been in the making for freaking ever. If you're not new to this channel, you'll know that there's a lot missing behind me. I've completely taken everything down from behind me. So there used to be a really wide wire shelf there with two large exoterra terrariums on top, plants below. So today we're going to be putting the finishing touches on installing the shelves behind me, installing the grow lights, and doing the first pass at styling the plants on it. And I say first pass because inevitably I'm going to start restyling it immediately after filming anyways, and it's going to be constantly changing, but I am so excited we're finally here. This whole process, it's been an idea in my head to want to redo this shelf, but I haven't had the right inspiration of how I wanted to do it. And when that inspiration came, from then on, from the planning to the selling of the things and tearing it down and patching everything, we're closing in on a month. This past month has been a lot of like lifting heavy things, knocking things down, because simultaneously while I was doing this with my boyfriend, we were also remodeling a corner of our kitchen by ourselves. So if I'm looking a bit haggard today, it's because I'm freaking exhausted, but like happy exhausted. So I don't know how big this room reads to you on camera, but it's quite a small room. It's not really like, it's a very small bedroom, or typically what people would use this size of room for, it would be like an office or a nursery. So an issue I always run into, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate, is that the plants get big, I stress out, I sell it, or I chop it back down, and I'm constantly having to move things around as things grow. So one thing I really wanted to accomplish with this new setup is to be able to move plants around as needed and move shelves around as needed. And the setup before wasn't that bad for growing plants, but aesthetically wasn't really pleasing. It wasn't really my style. It was very functional, but it was kind of industrial looking, so it lacked a softness that I really craved in this room. And my inspiration finally came to me when I was watching an interior design video where he was installing a track system. So tracks on the wall, similar to what I have behind me, and then a big piece of plywood across as a desk, and then smaller, like shallower pieces of plywood above for shelving. And I just thought that would be such a perfect system for a plant shelf, because you can add or take away as needed. You can move them up, you can move them down. So I'm going to go more into the exact system that I'm working with today. But first we got to deal with the grow lights, because that has to go up before the shelves. And for these shelves, because I want the ability to move them around willy-nilly, I didn't necessarily want bars like this attached to the bottom of the shelf. It's something I've always done with all my shelves, but in this scenario, if I had lights stuck to the shelf, it would create a bit of an obstacle every time I wanted to move a shelf around. So that would probably cause friction in how often I would actually utilize the full potential of the shelf. So I wanted lights that are not stuck to the shelf at all. And I already knew what my first choice of grow light would be, which is why I'm so grateful and happy to say that my first choice is sponsoring the grow lights for this shelf. And that is, of course, Soltech. I'm sure everyone watching this video has heard of Soltech before, but they are a grow light company based in the US. They have the most aesthetically pleasing grow lights that not only grow plants really well and have the perfect color temperature to integrate into your home lighting, because these grow lights are 3000 Kelvin. The design of them also integrates really well in all different sort of design styles. So I've been using Soltech for over a year now. I have one hanging right here. This is the light that you're seeing above my hand. But they recently came out with a generation 2 of the aspect pendant light, which is this. And they've made so many great improvements. And there's one feature that is just chef's kiss. So the generation 1 aspect grow light came in 2 sizes. The generation 2 only comes in 1 size. It is more powerful, but it has less energy consumption. It's the same 3000 Kelvin warm white, but the chef's kiss feature is that it's dimmable. It also has a 5-year warranty, so you're good to go for a long time. So for my new setup, I'm going to be using 2 aspects. I already have one installed here. That's the middle cord you see right here. I needed to install ahead of time, so I had a template to copy over to the second one, because I needed them to be matching. I'm just going to open up this box so you can see what the light looks like. So this is what it looks like when you pull it out of the box. Here's what it looks like from the bottom. And this is the dimmer. I am so excited about this feature because I don't know, I feel like I'm going to be using near to at least the full power of the grow light. However, if I'm seeing that this is bleaching plants, or they're not growing as dark as I'd like, and I want to change things up, and moving them around in the shelves isn't doing the trick, then I can dim it. And I also, when I'm filming, I can also dim the lights behind me so I'm not so backlit. I'm going to quickly run through the installation because it's quite simple. As long as you have ideally a drill and a hammer and a screwdriver. It's probably also useful to have a stud finder to see if you're drilling into a stud or a wall, but when you're drilling in, you can kind of tell if it's a stud or a wall. So the first thing you got to do is drill a hole into the ceiling and install with the anchor a swag hook. So that's the part that this hangs off of, and then you got to go to the wall and do the same thing again, drill into the wall with an anchor, and then install the Fairlead, which is your cable management. They include 3 Fairleads, so I have one in the corner of the ceiling and then one right there. I didn't use the third one because right here I believe there's electrical behind the wall, so I'm just gonna, I don't know, maybe use tape or just like position the cord. And the last thing I did, which is not included in the kit and is totally optional, but I angled the grow light towards the shelf. And I'm gonna show you how we did that in a little bit once we hang this up. So let us get this baby hung up. Okay, I have the Fairlead covers here. I'm gonna put them in my pocket, and I need a tape measure because I need the hanging height to be the same as the other one. So I'm gonna hang this off the hook. So the other one from hook to the bottom of the light was 16 inches. So we're just gonna make sure we're at least within the inch. And then this goes to the Fairlead. Okay, so now I can let go. I'm gonna straighten out the cord, and so it just fits into here. The Fairlead cover is horizontal and then just clicks in and locks. So this is the other one that I hung the other day. So I'm just gonna show you how I was able to angle it. Charmaine actually showed me how she did it on her setup. So it's a little S hook that I already have. I bought this in like, I don't know, like a 50 pack or something a long time ago, but it fits into the side of the grow light. And then I have clear fishing line tied from here to a little hook that I screwed into the ceiling. So it's pretty inconspicuous and it just angles it slightly. So my boyfriend already helped me make the other one, which is very convenient because all I have to do is hook it and they're matching. Okay, now I'm gonna turn them on. Are you guys ready? Left one first. Okay, this is max. I might actually use it at this brightness, but you could go all the way down to, that's off. Wait, this is the lowest. Can you see? Whoop. Let's turn it all the way up for now and do the right one. Oh my gosh. I am filled with joy. So here's what it's looking like before the shelves go in. By the way, I said I wasn't going to paint this wall. I don't know what the heck I was talking about because this wall needed painting. But this is White Dove by Benjamin Moore, and it's very creamy in person. Hopefully you can kind of see the difference between the two. In person, this is a lot more warm than this. I think on my camera, this is showing a lot more neutral, but it is warmer in real life. And I do plan on painting the rest of the room, but I honestly don't know how to paint this texture. This like stucco pattern thing is from the old owners, and I don't know what to do with it. I've searched for how to get rid of it, and I think mainly people say you can't really sand it off because it's so hard to make it flat again. So people just recommend skimming over it again, which I am not mentally or physically capable of. So I don't know. I haven't decided yet, but if I don't have the budget to actually hire someone to reskim this wall, I'll try to figure out a way to paint it this color because this is not it. Okay, I need to open this door because it's really stuffy in here. The next thing we got to do is install the shelves. So the shelving system that we're going to do is the IKEA bow axle system. So if you're really familiar with IKEA, you probably already heard of it, but I hadn't before because I was never in the market for something like this. But they usually market this as closet organization. So instead of those like really flimsy wire shelving that will come with a lot of homes, this is a lot more aesthetically pleasing, a lot more solid. And basically it's a modular system. So every single piece you buy individually. So I bought 3 of these rails. These vertical rails come in either white or black. I chose black just to integrate it into the room, but the shelves are either white, black, or oak effect, and I chose oak effect. So this is the shelf that I chose. I was actually really impressed with the quality of their laminate. So this is not real wood. It's particle board underneath with like a plastic laminate on top. But they do a really good job with the grain. There's a bit of texture there. You can't see the pixels really unless you go really, really close. But from a distance, this looks like it could be wood veneer. So altogether, I bought 5 shelves, and you'll see why I bought an odd number very soon. 3 rails. The brackets, I bought 8, I think. I think it was 8 brackets. And altogether, it cost me around 250. I think it was like 257 or something like that, Canadian dollars. So obviously you don't need to use the IKEA system. There's plenty of track system out there, but I felt like the IKEA one was pretty accessible. I think one consideration is if you're using this for decorative shelves and you want real wood, maybe it would be difficult to use IKEA system because the brackets have to fit into these little slots. So you're probably better off doing a different track and bracket style that kind of just hold the shelf like this rather than like hook it from the side. So I'm gonna start with, I think, the highest brackets, and then we're gonna do the lowest ones and then see where the middle one fits in, because the lowest ones, there's a certain height I want them to be, and the highest ones, I want them as high as possible without being annoying to try to reach. And I want to say that's somewhere around like head height, like here. Maybe like the shelf was here. I can still reach the plant. I probably don't want it any higher than that. It is quite high, but I could easily reach up here. So I'm just gonna show you really quickly why the bottom needs to be a certain height. So I have one more Exo Terrarium that is like a smaller one, and it's 2 feet tall. So it's gonna be like here. And then this side doesn't need to be quite as tall because I was just gonna grow bins of seedlings here so they have something to slide under. So there'll be a shelf here and then a shelf here and then the one shelf here and no shelf here. Does that make sense? So I actually feel like that high shelf is a good height if I want to be able to fit 3 layers. So something I forgot to mention is when I installed the lights, in terms of like the angle I wanted and the height that I wanted the lights at, I did double check to see what foot candles each plant would be receiving, and it's quite a lot. So this is further back on the top shelf and it's about 300. It's ranging from like 300 to like 320. But then down here it's still reading like 600 something, even all the way down here, 320. So I'm really, really happy that I'm not gonna need to put lights here. And these are more than enough to light everything on the shelf. I guess the only thing is like if a plant was shoved all the way to the back, it probably is not gonna get, so the lowest at the wall is saying 48. But then if I just go here, it's jumping all the way up into like the 200s, 300s, and all the way out here, it's like 600. So down here, I was trying to decide, do I want the EXO on this side, which would kind of block the outlet timer, or do I want bins on this side of seedlings and EXO on this side? And I'm not committed to keeping that EXO forever, but it's kind of nice to have something to quarantine, something a little bit high humidity out in the ambient area. So I only use the manual outlet timers, and whenever there's a power outage or anything, I have to manually reset it. And it's kind of a little bit more accessible if I could just move bins aside to do that. So I think this will be the bin side, and this is kind of like a continuation of these seedling bins. And this should be the maximum height of bin that I grow here, but I don't want lights directly on top. So probably right above the outlet would be a good place for the lower shelf. Maybe something like here, and then another one in the middle. Yeah, that could work. And I think for the middle shelf, we can kind of just split the difference between these two shelves. We had this one already made up because we were using this while we were installing to double check the distance between the tracks just to make sure they're installed correctly, because if they're off too much, this is not going to work. Maybe about here. Okay, last bracket, last shelf. So before we start putting plants on, I just want to show you what the shelf looks like empty and tell you some things I forgot to say about the installation of this. By the way, I will straighten this out. So I'll probably make it straight down to here. Since it will be covered by an EXO, I might just use electrical tape, to be honest, and then just snake it over to the right side. I forgot if I already mentioned this, but with this track shelving, the shelves are not they're not light. They're quite heavy actually, and you really want to make sure you have tons of support. So if you're able to drill into studs, that is absolutely ideal. It is doable to do it into drywall with anchors, but you really want to make sure those anchors are super strong. So I did scour Reddit for the bow axle system. People use this for decor, for like desk systems, for I don't know, the record players and stuff like that. And they recommended the easy self-drilling anchor with the number 8 size screw, which is the size of screw you're going to need. IKEA's not like, it doesn't really tell you the screw size, funnily enough. So I really had to search Reddit to find out exactly the screw size I needed. So on this rail, it is going into studs, so there's no anchor in this. On these two, since they're going to drywall, they are going into anchors. And the easy anchor one that I just mentioned is plastic. So like as it goes into the wall and you screw into it, basically explodes inside of the wall. So it provides a really, really strong hold. You do not want the really like thin little anchors that you use to hang pictures and stuff. That is not going to do it. For me, I use the same style as the easy anchor ones, but I got the zinc, the metal anchors. I figured this will be a little bit easier to take out after, like if I'm going to take down this shelf at any point. Obviously a metal anchor is going to come out in one piece, whereas the plastic one, I feel like you're either going to have to like shove it into the wall and then cover it over, or have to pick out little pieces of plastic. But with that said, I'm not going to be reckless with the weight I put on this shelf. So for example, I'm not going to put my Dark Phoenix, which is in pawn, in a huge glass vessel. It is the heaviest plant I have. Not going on the shelf. So the Dark Phoenix used to be here on the wire shelf. I'll probably put it over here. Quick light check again on the bottom shelf. So here, where there's no shadow, it's say 376 foot candles-ish. If I go to the back, it's a lot less, but it's about 100, in and around 100, depending on where you're angled. All the way at the back, probably not a good place to grow plants. So for anyone who's looking to install this shelves, I hope I answered all your questions. Oh, I should say, I put 6 screws in each rail. Well, like screw anchor times 6, screw anchor times 6, and then 6 regular screws in that one that's going into a stud. Look how pretty this new leaf is. This is my King of Spades red crystal. This is from Dania, and this is the newest leaf. I hope you can see how red those veins are. These poor plants have been sitting in the dark on the floor. They've probably been stepped on. Queen of Hearts. Do you want low light or high light? I can't tell with you. The top shelf, I was thinking, is perfect for when Lingeri. This Forgetii. Oh my gosh, I can't with this plant. It's so freaking wide. Maybe this Forgetii can go here. My poor King of Spades got absolutely annihilated by thrips. It's fine now. The spinosad that I use is always like a one and done situation. Like I can see thrip bodies on here, but when I like push it, they don't squirm. They just flake right off. They're super dead. I'm almost 99% sure that this is thrip free now, but it's just super ugly. But you know what? It's okay. She can go here. Maybe I'll put the Woohoo's First Night here. I was also thinking of putting my big Wen Lingeri. I don't know if you can see it right there. I was thinking of maybe putting it here. Oh my gosh, pollen everywhere. Now you're covering the King of Spades. Okay, you know what? This is probably gonna be a process. Like I'll be moving things around almost every day. Maybe I don't want the Wen Lingeri here. It's just covering too many plants. Oh my gosh, this one needs a prime spot. It's also pushed a leaf that got dinged. Oh my gosh, my Mr. Worldwide. I would love to see it every day. So let's put you... I don't know about that. So if we can see from this angle, it's not like absolutely packed with plants, which is good because I'm going to be swapping things around from here. I might acclimate something out of the tent. I don't know. I'm kind of overwhelmed right now. So I probably need to step away and then come back to it, but I'll be moving things out of the tent into here, possibly here. There's extra space here now. There's extra space here now. Luckily, this EXO is not crazy heavy. I got this one as a hand-me-down from a friend, and she had stuck these heating pads, like reptile heating pads to it that I've never used. I think this one can go here, and that will not impede the door. Maybe here then, because I want maximum space for bins down here. And yeah, I think I can definitely fit another shelf here. It will be slightly off from this one. I think it'll look fine. So yeah, like I said, I probably will just put a little bar light right here. It's not getting no light, it's just not enough to like grow propagations. So recently I had just like taken some really sad plants that had been struggling and I just chopped them up and potted them up. So they're gonna go in there. They're like slightly bigger plants that probably could fit into a dome, but at the time my dome was pretty full. But I also had growing in there with this Frydek, which is green on green variegated, and it's been sizing up lately. It's looking so nice. Like I was definitely thinking to get rid of it, and I just like kind of out of laziness didn't. But now that it's sizing up, I quite like it. Also the Alocasia Tanderusa from Dania, which I let dry out a few times, but it's loving the DIY pond. I need to water this, but I'm just gonna put these into the EXO. Okay, I'm gonna take a brief break because I need to sit in a fan and drink some water. Hold on. Okay, this is Future Alice here with a couple of notes that I completely forgot to mention when I was filming the first time. Regarding the vertical rails, there are two lengths. One is around 79 inches and one is like a little bit more than half the length, I think. The shorter one actually might be half. I don't really remember, but I bought the long ones. And when I was holding it and like standing next to the wall, I was like, oh, it's gonna fit. But when it came time to actually install it, I didn't take into account there's a part of the ceiling or a part of the wall where there's a slope, and I also didn't take into account the baseboards, and in the middle of the wall there was a vent, so there was no way we could install the entire length of the rail. So I ended up having to run to the hardware store and buy an angle grinder. So if you're needing to cut the rail, an angle grinder will do it fairly quickly. It is kind of a terrifying tool to use, I'll be honest. If you're going to use one, 1000% wear goggles. You do not want metal flakes going into your eyes. Do not wear flammable clothing because you will be covered in a shower of sparks. That said, it did a pretty quick job of cutting the rails down. An even better situation would be if you had a wall that's unobstructed by vents and like sloping ceilings and things like that. For most plain walls, even with a baseboard, you can get away with it. But if you really want to shorten it to the exact height of the shelving system you want to install, then an angle grinder will do it. I'm sure there are other tools that will do it, but my angle grinder that I got from Canadian Tire, which is a hardware store, was like 40 bucks. So it wasn't going to break the bank. The other thing I wanted to mention, and I don't think I emphasized this enough, was that I completely relied on my boyfriend to help me with this whole project, from moving things out to putting things up safely and all the measurements, and when he was doing the grow lights, making sure they're properly spaced out, and like the math that went into it. He was walking around the room like 19, 26, 46. I just wanted to make sure it was said that I really, really appreciated his help. Okay, back to the video. Okay, I think I have sufficiently cooled down now. While the camera was off, I decided to put my Dark Phoenix right here just to kind of fill that gap in because it was bothering me. It's a temporary gap, but I just wanted something there in the meantime. So all I have left to do now is add a light bar here and then a light bar on top of the EXO. Again, I'm not committed to keeping that EXO. It probably will eventually go, but for the meantime, it's not bad there. So just to refresh your memory, this is what the plant room looked like before with the wire shelf and the EXOs on top. It was a lot of cables in that setup with all the Barrena bars, and now it is looking so clean with the two Soltecs, and the wood shelves really do make this space look more like homey and not so industrial. And now behind me here, there are no bins here at the moment. This is a constant struggle, as you guys know. It's bin city, I clear it and then bin city forms again. I also have to do some cable management here, so probably get a cable management box and get everything kind of tucked into this little nook next to the wire shelf so that there's nothing in this area because I'm going to be watering bins and stuff. And also I still need to eventually, maybe within the next couple of weeks, paint the baseboards. I also want to paint the door frame. This room is going to constantly be a work in progress, but this is so nice to finally have done. I honestly really, really love it. If you're looking into track shelving, I would recommend at least looking into the bow axle system. If it's for plants specifically, I think if I was going to do something in the living room, I may not necessarily do bow axle just because I probably wanted real wood. But when it comes to plants, I want something that I can get wet without worrying too much about water damage. And all in all, I feel like I just have the safety net now. Like as my plants grow bigger or as I get more plants and sell more plants, like as this ebb and flow happens, I have the ability to change my shelving to match. Once again, a huge thank you to Soltec for sponsoring the lights for this video. I love them so much, and When I tell you they were my first choice, I mean they were my first choice. By the way, I am a Soltech affiliate, so with my code Alice15 or using the link in the description, you can get 15% off. And also bear in mind that the original Aspect lights are buy one get one free right now. So if you were wanting those lights, maybe now is the time to get it before they run out of their stock, because they will not be restocking in the future. But if you have the budget for it, I do think that the Gen 2 Aspect light with the dimmable feature is such a good investment if you're incorporating plants into your decor especially. It's definitely not the only grow light company that makes lights that can grow plants, but if you're living in and amongst your plants, which a lot of us do, it's definitely one to consider for a pleasant experience. So thank you again to Soltech for providing the finishing touch to this shelf that I'm so excited is finally up. And with that said, I'm going to leave you guys here. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you do have questions, by the way, like technical questions about installation and stuff, I will do my best to keep on top of the comments and answer any questions you might have. I also recommend searching Reddit if you have questions, because there'd be a wider variety of people with different experiences with different style of housing if it matches more closely to your situation. But anyways, I hope you're having a great day so far. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Mwah.